If you've been around in the Japanese language learning community, you'll eventually hear that Tadoku is the fastest way to grow your vocabulary and quickly get comfortable with the language. As someone who's already logged 130 hours of reading this year, I definitely agree, but not for the reasons you might think. Now yes, Tadoku is great, it's powerful, it works, but only when you already have something in place, and without it, extensive reading doesn't start to feel freeing, it starts to feel overwhelming. というわけで皆さん、今回ですね、速読、精読と多読の違いっていうか、役目について話していきたいと思います。はい。ごゆっくり楽しんでください。So I've scrolled way too much recently on r/learn Japanese, and it feels like the best way to learn a language, the best way to read, the best way to immerse, it always turns into some sort of debate or argument. Tadoku versus Seidoku, flow versus analysis, immersion versus studying. Now, I don't really think it's a debate, but more so a progression. So if you understand how all these methods come together, rather than choosing one little method to camp at, then your study process can feel a lot more intentional. So let me talk really quick about why I think Tadoku gets so much praise in the first place. So for anyone unfamiliar, Tadoku refers to extensive reading, or reading large amounts with minimal dictionary use and prioritizing flow. People love it because it provides massive exposure to vocabulary with context, and you'll also hear people refer to it as a natural SRS, which in turn also helps build pattern recognition. I found that this helped me build a tolerance to ambiguity and made reading feel less academic and more immersive. And with that, you stop studying Japanese and start experiencing it, and that's where this psychological appeal comes in, that you feel like you're making real progress. Now this only really works if you already understand most of what you're reading, and if there's too many unknown words, then it just becomes a guessing game. So let's say that you only knew 1 out of 3 given words, then that's not really extensive reading, that's trying to survive an apocalypse of the unknown. That was dramatic. So Tadoku assumes that you've already built accuracy, that when you see a sentence, you actually understand how it's structured, and that's where Seidoku comes in. So Seidoku refers to slow analytical reading. You're looking up grammar, parsing sentence structure, trying to understand nuance and sentence mining, which is why Seidoku feels so much more hands-on, so much more slow and mentally tiring. Now, I personally found Seidoku to be very useful in all stages of my Japanese journey, but I do think it's most crucial to practice as a beginner. I found that it helped me build an intuitive understanding of grammar, as well as generally how sentences are structured in Japanese, and also just more precision in the language itself. Without this, it'll take you longer to get a deeper and more natural understanding of the Japanese language, which means that Tadoku will become a shallower experience. Now, accuracy alone isn't enough. You could have a perfect understanding of grammar and still read painfully slow, which is where Sokudoku comes in. Now, Sokudoku is all about processing pace and processing speed. Now, don't get me wrong here. The goal is not to skim text carelessly to get your characters per hour up as much as possible, but rather train your brain to process information in real time. Now, Sokudoku literally forces your brain to stop translating. I had this issue for the longest time where I'd see a Japanese sentence, and instead of taking any time to actually analyze it, I'd either press translate or immediately try to search for the corresponding English word. By reading at this fixed pace, you're forced to react instead of analyze, and also trust your pattern recognition that you've built through doing Seidoku, or focused reading. Now, I think that Sokudoku massively helped me with perfectionism. I mean, who doesn't want to understand every word, every sentence, every book, every piece of passage they come across perfectly, right? I mean, that's the goal for me, at least, is to read things like a native, understand things like a native. So of course I want to be perfect. Sokudoku is there to help you bridge that gap between Seidoku and true Tadoku, because without speed, Tadoku never really feels smooth. Now here's where this becomes practical, because the hardest thing about moving between all these stages is knowing what to do when you run into something you don't understand. Now the main issue is that stopping constantly does break flow, but also ignoring confusion stops growth. Now for me, it was inevitable that I'd have to look up some unknown words, but I really did want to preserve immersion while still learning deeply. And one really great tool that's helped me accomplish that is Migaku. Migaku can give you instant definitions while reading, and you can quickly save example sentences from the content you're immersing in. They even have their own dedicated SRS flashcard system so that you can review the words you save later. I found it to come in handy whenever I wanted to do Seidoku with any physical works as well. Thanks to their OCR feature, I can take pictures of physical books and convert it into text that I can study and mine from immediately. With all the options Migaku gives you to add context to your vocab cards, I remember exactly where I've mined some words even 6 months ago. Overall, it's highly improved my mining workflow, and now I can spend more time enjoying immersion instead of making flashcards. This can make not only Seidoku, Sokudoku, and Tadoku smoother over time, but also just immersion in general, whether you like reading or watching stuff. So if that sounds interesting to you, you can head over to migaku.com/jareddesu to get an extra month for free on me, and they're also doing 10% off the lifetime plan. Learning a language isn't about choosing a method, it's about cycling through them intentionally. Seidoku builds accuracy, Sokudoku builds speed, and Tadoku builds endurance. They all support each other, not compete. I have 2 questions for those of you watching, and this goes for all language learners. It doesn't have to be Japanese. And that's, what stage are you at in your learning journey? And did any of the struggles I talk about in this video resonate with you, or maybe you have some others you want to leave down below. Now, the last thing I want to leave you with is imagine that your mind is a car. No, don't click off yet. I'm cooking. Trust me, I'm going somewhere with this. Imagine your mind as a car. Well then, Seidoku is the engine, Sokudoku is the top speed, and Tadoku is the mileage. And when all those come together, it works beautifully like a machine, and reading just gets easier. I'm not gonna lie to you and say that it becomes effortless overnight, but it gets easier and it gets better over time. Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed, you can let me know by leaving a thumbs up. And make sure to subscribe to stay updated because I have so many videos planned for this year. And as always, thank you to these wonderful people for supporting the channel. If you'd like to see your name up here, you can become a channel member down below. And feel free to join our Discord where we have tons of motivated Japanese learners just like you waiting to connect. So as always, keep reading, keep immersing, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.